Okay, I was saying, if too much carbon dioxide accumulates in the body, there is probability of the formation of a weak carbonic acid inside the body. Then what are the dangers for the formation of this acid in the body? It's because, remember, I once said there are some metabolic reactions taking place in the body, right? And these metabolic processes, they are enzyme controlled, right? Enzymes. Maybe for you to understand further, I need also to outline a little bit further on enzymes, right? Enzymes, these are biological catalysts that speeds up the rate of chemical reactions in the body, right? So we are saying that these metabolic processes, they are enzyme controlled, right? Or enzyme catalyzed, right? So now if there is these enzymes, they have got their properties, right? For example, enzymes 1, so I have just outlined just a few properties of enzymes, right? 1, I'm saying enzymes, they work at a specific pH range, right? When we talk of the pH range, we're now talking in terms of what? pH, in terms of the pH scale, in terms of the pH scale. Remember, the pH scale runs from 1 to 14, whereby at 7 there we say it's neutral, right? Then from 1 to around 6 points, it's acidic. Here it's acidic. Then alkaline, right? So now we are saying now, if enzymes work at a specific pH range, right? Now suppose we have an enzyme which is catalyzing a metabolic reaction inside the body, which needs the conditions to be neutral. And now we have excess of carbon dioxide being formed inside the body. That means the conditions inside the body are going to be acidic. So, does this enzyme which require a neutral condition going to be effective or to work? Definitely the answer is what? Is no, right? So that means it's not good for the body to have too much carbon dioxide, because if the body is going to have too much carbon dioxide, the enzymes which require neutral conditions and also which require alkaline conditions cannot work effectively. Guys, do you get it now? Right? So in other words, we are saying that if this situation arises, we are only going to have enzymes which require acidic conditions performing well. But what about those enzymes which require neutral and alkaline conditions? They are going to be less effective. So there is need for the body to get rid of the excess of what? Carbon dioxide, right? Then also we have this issue. Maybe lastly, I'm going to look at water. Let me go to the issue of what? Of glucose. Too much glucose. Then too little. Right. So under glucose now, we are saying that normally you would find that the food that we eat, especially carbohydrates or starch foods, is more than enough than what is wanted by the body or required for the metabolic process of respiration. Usually we take in excess, right? So what happens now if we are going to take excess food? That means if the food is going to be digested or broken down into smaller particles, the end product from those starchy foods or from those carbohydrates is going to be what? Glucose, right? So glucose will then enter or diffuse into the blood in the small intestines. They will then enter into the blood, right? So if there is going to be too much glucose in the blood, remember we once discussed that there is going to be what? A threat, right? Whereby one can suffer to a condition of diabetes mellitus, right? So we are saying now, remember we said that in order to regulate the amount of glucose in the blood, if there is too much glucose in the blood, the beta cells of the islets of Langerhans of the pancreas will detect the anomaly, right? Once they detect the anomaly, we said that they will send a message to the liver, right? Then, so in this case, we are saying that the liver is the effector organ, right? So the hormone insulin, if the hormone insulin sends message to the liver will then convert the excess glucose into an insoluble sugar, which is called glycogen, right? But if it happens now the other way around, that maybe you've spent the whole day without eating or you are fasting, then you have too little glucose in the blood, right? We said that if that anomaly arises, the alpha cells of the islets of Langerhans will detect the anomaly, right? Then they will release the hormone glucagon, and glucagon will send the message to the liver, right? Remember, there is now stored glucose in the form of what? Of glycogen. So glucagon will cause the liver to reconvert the insoluble sugar glycogen to what? To glucose, so that there is always a balance or a maintenance of constant glucose level in the blood, right? Then, now we want to look at water. If there is going to be too much water, or too little water. So now I think you have seen now the importance of what the significance of homeostasis. Why? Because if there was no homeostasis or the maintenance of a constant internal environment, it would mean that all these things were going to be in excess without being controlled, or in too little without being controlled. And eventually, what would that mean for you? It was going to be hazardous for the body. But now we are saying that because our bodies, they have this system of homeostasis whereby they are able to maintain a constant internal environment, they are able to maintain all these essential elements and keep them in average or normal levels, right? So now, today we want to look now at water regulation in the body. Water regulation in the body. What happens in the body if we have too much water and if we have too little water. So before I speak much on water regulation, I would want you to know this term, osmoregulation. Osmoregulation. Osmoregulation is the process whereby water is controlled or regulated in the blood. Is the regulation of water in the blood. Is the regulation of water in the blood. Right. So now, in order for you to understand the process of osmoregulation, because I'm saying that there is also need for water. Yes, water is an essential element. We all need water, and you know, water makes up the main part of our body, right? But it should not be in excess, right? Because if water is in excess, or remains unbalanced or unchecked, if water is in excess, do you know what? Let me draw a typical animal cell, a typical